House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi on Thursday said that she believes that the reason that the Republicans in the House and in Congress specifically have not moved on immigration legislation and immigration reform is because of the race factor. She was asked specifically, at first she didn't want to say anything, she declined, but she was asked a specific question about the testy relationship between congressional Republicans and the Obama administration. And she's basically saying, yeah, that although she was reluctant to say so, she's like, yeah, it's very clear that the Republicans have been, as she put it, very disrespectful of White House officials. She said, I think race has something to do with the fact that they're not bringing up an immigration bill. I've heard them say to the Irish, if it were just you, this would be easy. In other words, if this was an immigration bill for white people, that she thinks the Republicans would just jump right on that. What do y'all think?
I think there probably is some truth to it. There's some brown person issue truth. But can we just see the quote again for just a quick sec? Because I think what's really interesting is she says, I've heard them say to the Irish. Like, is she spying on them when they're meeting with the Irish? This to me is one of these things where she's trying to make a point and she's making up a specific situation. Has she found John Boehner in a room on St. Patrick's Day telling a bunch of Irish people, guys, it would be much easier. I just don't buy it, really. I don't mean that the policy is against what she's saying, but I find it a little disingenuous.
Well, I mean, it's almost like a point that I don't think needs to be made. She's saying that racism is the reason why they won't pass. It's not necessarily racism. It's the racism of the people who are going to vote for them that they need to appeal to. That's what they know, that if they are seen as selling out to Mexicans, these filthy, lazy Mexicans who want to come here and take all our jobs, which is a contradiction, that they will be seen as selling out, and so they have to kind of, so it is race that's driving this issue, but the lawmakers aren't necessarily racist themselves, although some of them certainly are. I don't know if you remember Don Young from Alaska. He was forced to publicly apologize after he said, 50 to 60 wetbacks, his family would hire them, which was nice, and he said, I meant to say little Sambos. So, so I think certainly some of them are racist. I think that their policies are racist because that's their base. Are you kidding me? The Southern Strategy. 2 out of the last 3 chairmen of the Republican National Committees have apologized they've acknowledged and apologized the Southern Strategy, which is appealing to their base, the fear Whitey has of the other, meaning the dark other. Yeah. So that's all this is. This is an extension of the Southern Strategy, which is probably would have been better if Nancy Pelosi put it that way. This is just another extension of the Southern Strategy, so people can put it together. It doesn't sound like everything that you hate about just racism and racism. And, Jonathan Chait put that article in the New Yorker, which was ridiculous the other day. So this kind of, so you don't want to be seen as as Bill O'Reilly likes to refer to them as race hustlers, right? Oh, everything's a race problem. So if she would have just, I think, connected it to the Southern Strategy, she would have been a little better off. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it makes sense with the way that you sort of delineate the two different, that, it's not necessarily that the Republicans in Congress are racist themselves, except for the ones that have, specifically come out and said really stupid stuff. Like, this Representative Steve King in Iowa, he was the one that basically said all the kids who are who are dreamers, who would be allowed in via the DREAM Act, that they are all somehow acting as drug mules for drug smugglers. Remember, he was the one that said they've got calves the size of cantaloupes because they're hauling 75 pounds of marijuana across the desert in their jeans. I mean, aside from the direct Republicans that have made it clear that they have issues with racism, I think you're probably right that it's really got more to do with whistling to the base, with dog whistles to the base.
Yeah, and believe me, I wasn't implying that it doesn't have to do with race. I just think the way she framed it was a little silly, just throwing out something like, I've heard them talk to Irish people.
The Irish thing is, obviously he hasn't been talking to all of Ireland to say, yes, we'd let you in if that was all that there was to it. Right. But then again, when you look at some of the stuff that she was saying about the Republicans in Congress being specifically very disrespectful of this particular White House, I wonder what could be the one factor that makes the difference.
Let me think.
I know. It could also be that it's just because they're Democrats. And
you got something? Is there something different about this president
big from black all?
And this Attorney General,
I'm drawing a big black
maybe?
blank. Big
Nothing.
black,
Yeah,
right? But
nothing.
You know,
that-
so I think there's that in there. Eric Holder, the Attorney General, went to a speech on Wednesday, and he was referring back to his hearing that he had on Tuesday, where I forget which congressman he was involved with, but the congressman was incredibly disrespectful. I mean, and he just said, you know, in this speech that Holder gave on Wednesday, he said, forget anything that it has to do with me personally. He just said, has any Attorney General had to deal with this kind of disrespect, with this kind of just, you know, right in your face, just saying crazy shit? You know, why is, you know, and that's why I think that there's got to be something to what she has to say about racism being at the heart of the hold on immigration.
Yeah, look, I do agree. Obviously, there's a ton of racism at play here, but I also think we shouldn't dismiss just how screwed up our political system is, and it's just getting worse. So it's easy to always say it's racism. So we have a black president, understandably. We have a black attorney general. So it's easy for Eric Holder to say that. You know, what's the difference here? And we can all look, and if you're not colorblind, you can see what the difference is. But also, our political system is so screwed up and so partisan that might have something to do with it too. That's not necessarily better or worse. I don't know. I don't know which it is actually, because
you know what it is. It just, for me, it just makes it a little easier for them, right? That he's black. I mean, because they certainly did outrageous, crazy things to Bill Clinton. They certainly, I mean, they impeached him. Right? Impeach Bill Clinton. So, and believe me, they would have impeached Barack Obama if they thought they could get away with it. And but they can't. There's no smoking gun on anything he's done. So I think you have to remember, I mean, from day one, they tried to get rid of Bill Clinton. Whitewater, Travelgate, Monica Lewinsky, they tried to get rid of him in every way possible they could. And so they just use Obama's blackness against him with their base, right? So that it does, sure. When Bill O'Reilly has Barack Obama on, if it was Bill Clinton and he disrespected him, he'd get points. But if Bill Clinton was black, he gets like an extra half a star from his base. You know what I mean? So it's like they want you to disrespect any Democrat, but if he happens to be black, Mexican, or a different color, that's an extra add a bow. I think it's more fun for them. I mean, that's a little sugar on top. You know what I mean?
But don't you guys think that using the racial thing is really misguided, not only just on a moral level, but even at an election level? When you think about 2016, chances are the Democrats aren't going to nominate another black person, probably, because it's probably going to be Hillary. So you would think the Republicans, just purely on wanting to be elected, would be trying to make moves for the black community, for the Mexican community, et cetera, et cetera. So not even like they care about power more than race, I think. So you would think that maybe they were doing it on those grounds, and yet we don't see that either.
You don't think Al Sharpton's going to win the nomination?
He doesn't have my vote, I'll tell you that much.
Well, I think, you know, you make a good point there. I think what they're planning on doing is using this for the midterm elections in 2014. And then depending on how that goes, then they'll pivot to being, oh yeah, now we'll do comprehensive immigration reform. I mean, to me, it seems clear that it's mostly because I think it's a Democratic administration, and you know the Republicans have made it clear that they're going to fight whatever they can, tooth and nail, every step of the way, so that there are no victories that can then can accrue to either Obama or the Democrats. You know, to me, it's obvious that this does have a racial component, however, because you don't ever hear them talking about building a border fence to Canada.